We have Mary and we have Gershom. So we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And recognize that with us tonight, we have Mary Navas, Gershom Torres, Larry Valabi, Javier Gonzalez, and myself, Michael Jones. So we have a quorum of the board. And can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thanks, Larry. All those in, well, let's see. Approving that or disapproving it. Mary, how do you vote?
Aye.
Gershom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Javier?
Aye.
Michael votes aye as well. Agenda is approved. We will now move to, we don't have any guests, so I don't have to introduce anybody. Does anybody have anything they want to share in terms of public comment? Oh, I got out of order there. So anyway, but that catches us up, and I believe we're ready to zoom into closed session for a discipline issue. So
Okay.
let's log out and log back in. See you on the other side.
I'll keep this one open.
All right.
Okay, everybody's back and the board has returned from closed session. And I have to report that the board has approved the suspended enforcement of the stipulated expulsion order regarding confidential student discipline matter order number 04202022. And the board voted unanimously in support of that action. And now we will move ahead to the DMS monthly update.
Share my screen. Yeah. Okay, Daniel's going to present today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, so we'll move forward with me presenting the Delta monthly, these CMS monthly updates, and then when we have a major budget adoption, whether it be first interim, second interim, whether initial adoption, Paul will be here to help. He likes to join us at times, but I'm happy to take this part on.
Can you all hear Daniel okay?
It's a little low.
Okay, let me get a little closer. We're both in the same office right now, and I don't. I can't
You don't
have.
want to get too close to Josh.
What's that?
You don't want to get too close to Josh?
Yeah, it's that, and it's if I have my microphone and speaker on, then it'll be a lot of like
Feedback?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So here's our monthly update for financials through March 31st. So we've incurred expenses for the first 9 months of the school year. We're still on track with the second interim. There haven't been any significant changes in here. Our revenues are still lagging a bit. We have in April, we did receive a good number of revenues from lottery, from EPA. So we're starting to get closer. Expenditures, we're tracking in line with the second interim budget and overall expectations. Compensation is currently at 48% of the budget, which aligns with the current budget. Outside services and other operating expenditures are also coming at 71% of the budget. Materials and supplies are at 89% of the budget, which also meets expectations. Several components of this category are front-loaded. Expenditures, meaning the curriculum technology items, which need to be in place at the beginning of the school year. Outside services and other operating costs are on track at 73% of the budget. On a cash basis, we can actually go to the cash flow statement for this one.
Let me go down to the cash flow statement.
Yes.
Okay.
So that bottom right-hand green line in March shows that we ended March with a cash balance of $3.5 million, which is a lot better than where we started. We're still in a great cash position, and just to report out on our plans for an operating cash reserve. I'm still working with the county on that, working to see if our county will allow us to use the treasury to store our cash reserves for our net operating cash balance.
Okay.
Outside of that, I'm open to any questions. I hope all of you have the attachment.
Oh, looks good. Looks good.
One question I had, Daniel, is I know that there's been conversations in the rest of the district regarding declining enrollment and budgeting appropriately for that. Has our thinking around that subject changed at all?
You mean as it pertains to SEBA and our enrollment moving forward? Yeah, I mean, it's always a consideration for us. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we're going to have our lottery enrollment night, where we're going to be bringing in mostly sixth graders, a couple students at the 7th and 8th grade level. But what it means for us in terms of declining enrollment and how it impacts us to an extent, meaning it impacts the pool from which we draw from. But that's always something that's on our minds, is how can we, maximize the total number of applications we get. We did have to make a very concerted push to get applications this year compared to
Mm.
years past. That is something that we're tracking because at the end of the day, a loan covenant with Santa Cruz County Bank is that they want to see that we have a wait list on top of the, the enrolled students that we have. So Josh and I are always on top of trying to get as many applications as we can. So that might mean, even more efforts to get those applications in. Then we'll start to see how that impacts us.
So do you have a wait list now?
We have a wait list.
Okay,
I think,
Just to kind of give some numbers to what Daniel's describing, we have 170 applications for our lottery tomorrow, which will ultimately result in about
98 seats for.
so about 72 people on our wait list. And you can just kind of compare application numbers over the years we have a fairly stable number of students who leave SEBA during their 7 years. In the previous year, we had 116 applications. The year before that, we had 155. So we beat both of those numbers. If you go all the way back to 1920, we had 192, and we didn't quite hit that. We're about 22 short of that. And then going back even prior to that, we're looking at numbers that were in the 200s, basically. So in the conclusion, we are seeing a decline in the total number of applications, although up from the COVID pandemic 2-year period, but down from the previous 5 years.
so Josh, do you guys track reasons why you have attrition, why kids are leaving? Do you track that information just to?
Yes, we do exit interviews with all of the students.
Okay.
And then we'll see, historically, we've always seen the most at 8th to 9th to go on to maybe a comprehensive high school for a variety of reasons. We didn't see that attrition the previous 2 years for obviously COVID, and maybe people just felt like, well, it feels safe here, so we're just going to continue to go here. We're happy with SEBA. But it'll be interesting to see what our attrition ends up being for this upcoming school year now that things are, moving closer to being back to normal.
Yeah, and that wait list is really important for us because even throughout the year, we lose students from the beginning of the school year all the way to even up to now.
Mhm.
We did have, I think we started this semester with around 520 students. I think we're closer to about 509, 510 right now. And for some students moving, a handful of students actually moving out of the area, a couple choosing to go to the local high schools, and a couple choosing different schools within the county. So, it's something that we definitely try to track because, at the end of the day, that wait list is what we pull from when we lose students here.
All right, any other questions for Daniel? Okay, thank you for that report. Let's move ahead to the head of school report.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so for my head of school report, we're going to talk about our spring STAR scores and take a look at how our school performed in the fall of 2021 compared to spring of 2022. We're going to take a look at parent engagement, end of year events, and then I'm going to give a brief zoning update. So we're going to start off with our Renaissance STAR results. So these again are from the fall semester of the school year to the spring semester of the school year. STAR presents students' performances in 4 brackets. Level 1 is standard not met, the darkest shade of blue. Standard level 2 is standard nearly met, a little bit lighter shade. Standard met, lighter shade still, and then the standard exceeded is that top bar that is the kind of light blue color. And so what we see in so this is reading, grades 6 through 8, so our middle school, and we see a fall column and a spring column. Then we can see that in 6th grade in reading, in the fall, we had 42% of our students at standard not met, and that was reduced to about 39. We had less students at the standard nearly met, but then an increase of students meeting the standard by about 7%, including 7 percentage points when you include the standard exceeded and standard met there. So we saw growth in sixth grade fall to sixth grade winter. And then sixth grade spring, we see that growth fell off a little bit at that standard met. We had a lot more kids at the standard nearly met, but then significantly fewer students at the standard not met, only 32%. We go on to seventh grade, and I'm just going to go fall to spring this time. We had 46%, 47% of our students not met at the beginning of the school year. That's down to 41. And then if you look up at the standard met, we can see that we grew from about 19% of students meeting or exceeding the standard to 25% of the students meeting or exceeding the standard. As we go on to eighth grade, we can see that the standard students, percentage of students not meeting the standard for reading was at 40% in the fall, and that number shrunk to 30%, 32%, 33% of our students in eighth grade. And the percentage of students who met the standard was up to 33%, which is a good mark for us. And that's an improvement over the fall, in which about 25, 26% of our students were meeting or exceeding the standards.
It's progress. It's
Yep.
progress, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
It's like there's none of the grade levels did we go backwards. So they're all improving, and it feels good to see that. In the high school, we see more of that. So percentage of students who are not meeting the standard dropped from 50 to 38. Percentage of students meeting the standards or exceeding them jumped to about 28% from 22%. In 10th grade, we go from 34 down to 24. And then the students meeting or exceeding the standards in reading jumps from 27, 28 to about 40% in reading. So that's a great jump there.
Great job. Yeah.
And in 11th grade fall, 29% of our students were not meeting the standard in the fall. That's down to 13. And then we saw students meeting or exceeding the standard go from 28, 29% up to 36%. So we see a jump there as well. So again, we saw improvement in all the grade levels in our reading star scores. What will be interesting to see is how this translates to the CASP SBAC exam.
Mhm.
We we're in the process of administering that exam to our middle schoolers this week, grades 6, 7, and 8. And then the high school will take their CASP SBAC exam in 2 weeks.
Josh, is this the first administration of the CASP since the pandemic?
Yes, schools had the option to administer last year, but it wasn't required. We opted to just continue with the STAR administration. And so now we'll be back with CASP for the first time, along with all the other public schools in California this spring. Math tells a similar story. We can see in the fall, 63% of our students were not meeting standard in math. That number dropped to 44%. So great jump there. And we saw significant improvement from about 6, 7% meeting or exceeding the standard to 14% of our class. 7th grade fall, we see the jump from over half our kids not meeting the standard to just 30%. And then the percentage of students meeting or exceeding the standard jumps all the way up to 32% from what was 17% in the fall. And then in 8th grade, we see we drop from 48% not meeting to 41. And then we see the percentage of students meeting or exceeding goes to 28 and change, 28% up to about 31% or so. 33, excuse me. Thanks, Matt. With data. And then we go on to high school. We see 47% not meeting the standard. That dropped to 36%. And we saw some growth there, going from 23, 24% meeting or exceeding the standard up to 28, 29% meeting the standard. The the spring or the math in 10th grade is exceptional. It was the most growth of both reading or math in any grade level. And we've never seen growth like this before. So for one kind of highlight and intrigue for me, we've seen that kind of modest growth across all the grade levels so far.
Uh-huh.
But this 10th grade is startling, especially when we consider that historically we have not done well with these exams at the math exams at the high school level. But you can see here, we started at 37%, only about a quarter of our kids now are at that standard not met. And then the percentage of students meeting or exceeding the standards is above 50%. So it's really something to be impressed with. Even the state average of students meeting or exceeding the standards hovers around 30 to 35%.
In math.
In math, correct.
Mhm.
So that's really impressive. And then
So is there anything you can attribute that to, Josh? Outside of good teaching?
I think it's good. I think it's a combination of factors. I don't think it's one in particular. The teacher has now been with us for 4 years. So I think that is a contributing factor. We're using instructional materials formally for the first time with pacing guides. And, we adopted these last year after going through that.
Good.
So I think that is definitely a factor in this improvement. And then we're just kind of following up and making sure that that's the expectation for all the students. And then I think the final one is that we went back to having math every day. At the high school level, we did have it every other day. And I think that is a reason.
That makes a big difference. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, every
And
day.
what-
That's repetitive. Isn't math just has to be repetitive, right?
Right. And what's even more interesting is, so you see this 10th grade, excellent growth. Even 11th grade, we see excellent growth.
Mhm.
And both those grades had math every single day. Whereas in 9th grade, just because of how the master schedule and staffing worked out, we had to have 9th grade algebra be every other day. And while we did see some modest growth there, it wasn't the striking growth that you saw that we all see in 10th and 11th grade.
So does that mean you're going to change it to every day?
Yes, and that was our intention at the beginning. It always just comes down to a number of factors. So, but yes, it definitely shows that math every day is something that improves student performance.
It's very nice to see strong performance or strong improvement like that in the area of math, which we haven't seen in a long time.
Yes. So looking forward to seeing our SBAC results when those will come out in July or August. And I'm hoping that they'll at least closely mirror what we saw in this most recent STAR exam. Okay. Now we're going to go into just analysis of our target subgroups. Before we go into that, our target subgroups are students with disabilities. That is students with IEPs, not students with 504s. Students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, and then foster and homeless youth. And so here, this is students with disabilities. And we can just see their performance compared 6 all to 6 students with disabilities. And we can see that the numbers there are lower, but that is to be expected. But what we want to see is if there is growth. And so what we can see just looking at this is that we have a lot of students who are students with disabilities at that level 1 mark. And so we have some work to do with the students, at least in reading, according to this, the Spring STAR exam. But that said, there was a highlight. 71% of our students who are special students with disabilities in 11th grade had a level 2 score. So that was a big highlight for us. Any questions about students with disabilities?
Not to mention 14% meeting.
Exactly. We're going to go on to math for students with disabilities. And we can see here, 6th grade, we don't have anyone meeting standards, but over time, 7th grade, we can see 20% of the students were nearly meeting the standard. In 8th grade, we had No one meeting the standard, unfortunately. In ninth grade, no one meeting the standard. In 10th grade, 12% of our students meeting the standards. That was good. In 11th grade, unfortunately, none of our students were meeting the standard for math with who are our students with disabilities. Moving on to socioeconomically disadvantaged. Here we see all of our students compared to our socioeconomically advantaged students, and that percentage is approximately 78% this year. We're kind of in a flux year. It probably is higher than that. Schools historically have tracked the percentage of students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged through the school lunch program. School lunches are free this year, so it provided a disincentive to families filling out that application. So we saw a slight drop off, maybe from going from 85% socioeconomically disadvantaged down to 78 this year. So just to have that context in your mind, I don't know that that necessarily means that our demographic has changed, just might be more of a reflection of less people filling out that application because you don't get anything from completing the application. In former years, you would get free lunches by doing that.
An update on that is next year, we might have a similar status for meals, but we could be using a more simpler form to qualify families.
Oh.
So
good. Okay, so socioeconomically disadvantaged, 6th grade, slightly lower performance compared to our overall student body. 7th grade, and this is reading, we actually see an improvement. So we can see more students meeting or exceeding the standards here. Whereas that feels good. 8th grade, we see a slight downward trend there when we compare our socioeconomically disadvantaged students to all of our students. In 9th grade, a slight downward trend in reading. And then 10th grade, it mirrors it very closely. And 11th grade, fairly closely as well. And when I say this, it has the percentages up here, but given that most of our classes sizes are 60 to 70 kids, when it's off by a percentage or two, that's literally 1 or 2 students. That makes and so then we're going to take a look at math. And what we see here, 6th grade, slight downward trend. 7th grade, slight upward trend. 8th grade, slight downward trend. 9th grade, we're about even. 10th grade, we're about even, but continuing with that high performance. In 11th grade, continuing with that high performance. So it's kind of closely mirroring that. ELs, we see that there is a downward trend of students who are English learners compared to our overall student body. About 25% of our student body is currently English learners. And so we see that there's downward trend there in 6th grade, then again in 7th grade, and then again in 8th grade in reading. And then in 9th grade, we see that there's a big drop off there in terms of reading, along with 10th and 11th grade. So that's just kind of showing, we have got some work to do with our ELs. One thing that, and just showing these is, as we kind of move forward and utilizing STAR more, I kind of want to see what the growth was of these ELs. I think that would be more reflective of overall performance. It's nice to see it next to the overall student body, but I would want to see just, even within this bar chart, did the students move at all in the administration of these exams from fall to spring? So that could be something I will work on in the future. Then math, we see slight downward trend from ELs to overall student body. Same with 7th grade, same with 8th grade, same with 9th grade. 10th grade, it's striking, the difference there. And then 11th grade. So it does. And we also, it's interesting too, we have a lot more ELs who are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then in 9th through 11th grade, we have fewer ELs, and it also indicates that they've been English learners for, in many cases, 5 or 6 years or longer, counting their elementary school careers. And then finally, to wrap up with our target subgroups, we have foster and homeless youth, and that is 6th grade. We don't have data on them still of whether they're in foster or foster care or homeless. So we don't have any data on that. 7th grade, we see actually an improvement from compared to the overall student body. Same thing with 8th grade, and this is in reading. In 9th grade, there was a drop off. 10th grade, a drop off, and 11th grade, a drop off. What's kind of deceiving about these numbers is the numbers are fairly low that are in this foster and homeless youth subgroup. And so just a few students can sway their percentages one way or another. But it's interesting that the high school sees a drop off, whereas the middle school, the students perform about the same or even better. And then in math, what we see with our foster and homeless youth is improvement in 7th grade, significant improvement in 8th grade, improvement in 9th grade, improvement in 10th grade, and then a slight drop off in 11th grade.
And that's great. It's math, because math is generally the difficult subject to see improvement on. So it's great to see that.
Yes, I agree. Feels good. Okay, any other questions in general about the STAR performance? Okay, moving on. Next one, parent engagement. So we had a school site council on Wednesday, April 27th, and parent leadership on the 23rd. Parent leadership, last Saturday, we talked about the LCAP, and also about, we did an anti-bullying webinar with going over some strategies students and parents can use to prevent cyberbullying. It's really effective. We had about 49 parents come out to our parent leadership.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we did it. We're kind of figuring out when we're going to pull off the Band-Aid and have only live meetings, and we did that for that April 23rd meeting. And I was really pleased with the outcome there in terms of getting about 50 people out to the meeting on that Saturday. School site council we held on Wednesday, and we talked about an upcoming town hall we're going to have for the rezoning conference, which I'm going to share a little bit later in this presentation. So we talked about our STAR scores with the school site council, and then we talked about the rezoning, and I'll share more about that in just a moment. We also had 2 PK workshops. PK stands for Parent Institute of Quality Education. In the fall, we had a social emotional learning workshop, which consisted of 8 75-minute weekly workshops for our families. We had 98 parents graduate from that in October of 2021.
That's great.
And then in spring, we had 1 parents who will graduate this Thursday. For both of these, it's really great. They both kind of work on different things. So the fall one kind of talks about connecting with your kids, trying to understand the adolescent mind, being positive in terms of supporting your students when they encounter challenges. And then in the spring, it really gets into the nuts and bolts of the US school system. So like what a GPA is, what FAFSA is, what is relevant information about your students and their educational lives, and then how the college admissions process works. But they really get down to that at a granular level where the parents can walk out of that and feel like they can better guide their students as to what they should do upon graduation. There's always a principal dialogue at the end of each of these workshops, and they kind of develop a list of questions. Like this year, I think they had 14 questions for me. And they're really good questions. They'll say like, how do I ensure that my child can receive all the financial support he needs to go to such and such school? Or how many AP classes are you offering? I never really hear that often, but after they get through the PK workshop, I do hear that. So it's wonderful to see that. So very proud of all of our families that participate in these workshops.
So Josh, who puts on these workshops? Is it your staff? Is it you contract out?
So PK is an external organization, so they put on the workshops. And this year they did Zoom again. And we've done this annually. This was the first year we ever had 2 workshops in one year. We usually just did the Signature Parent Program in the spring or sometimes in the winter. And that used to be live pre-pandemic. And now I think it'll be live next year. We were just talking about what the plan is for next year, but I want to continue with having 2 workshops. I hear a lot of positive feedback from
That's
families.
great.
Yeah. Okay, next up, end of year events. So May as you all know, is a busy time of year for schools, and we've got a number of events. We've got our senior retreat coming up this Friday. It's going to be at the Pajaro Valley Historical Society. We've got prom that same day. It's going to be held at Gilroy Gardens from 6 to 11 p.m. The following Friday, we have an 8th grade end of year dance. And then following Thursday after that, we have a bike and walk to school day that we'll be hosting. And we work with an organization that's going to kind of give out swag and different types of prizes for students who bike or walk to school. We have an 8th grade end of year trip to Great America on Friday, May 20th. And then senior grad night is to Disneyland on the 21st and the 22nd. We'll have a talent show on the 26th. We have our college acceptance day on the 27th, which is arguably the most kind of ceremonious and special day of our year. It's when our seniors walk across the Mello Center, which is the stage at Watsonville High School, and to announce what they're going to do with their, what college they're going to attend and what they're going to do with their education. The whole school goes to that. They all watch the 60 to 70 seniors walk across the stage, and they all kind of get the impression that one day they're going to be up there participating in that same event. So it's going to be fun to have this live after we had 2 virtual ones the previous 2 years. We'll have a spring semester awards. So this is going to be like history of the student, history student of the semester, or math student of the semester by grade level on Thursday, May 31st. And then we have a senior sunset ceremony on June 2nd, and an end of year picnic at Pinto Lake County Park on Friday, June 3rd. So just an
What
update.
time is the college acceptance day?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Mhm.
Yes, it's going to be at 1:30. So I will send out a formal invite to all of you. And I will also be sending you a formal invite out to our promotion and graduation ceremonies. Our promotion is Friday, June 10th at 10 a.m. And our graduation is on Friday, June 10th as well at 1 p.m. We're going to hold it at the Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds. We held it there last year. It went really well, and we decided just to keep it there. It's kind of fun and festive being outside. In previous years, we've held it at the Mello Center, and a few years back, we even held it at Santa Cruz a few times. So those are the updates. The one thing I didn't include there, I'm just realizing now, was going back to this. We also have all of our grades going out for college trips, grades 6 through 11. So our 11th graders just got back from visiting St. Mary's Moraga yesterday, and then they stopped by the Oakland Zoo on their way back. And then 9th is going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. They're leaving before school starts, and then they'll get back around 5:30. It'll be a great experience for them. But essentially, every grade level is going to get to do a college trip.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and for the most part, unless it's really far away, like SLO, they're combining that with some type of special activity along with that. Okay, so then finally, the zoning update. So we had our Watsonville Planning Commission on Tuesday, April 4th. They voted 3-2, but we needed 4 votes, so we didn't get that approval. But we are, so they're just gonna go without a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council. The City Council is going to vote on June 28th about whether to rezone our property from industrial to institutional. There's 7 council members, and we need 4 of their votes in favor of the zoning change. The Watsonville Planning Commission had basically 2 concerns, along with the local community members who wrote or expressed concerns, and it basically came down to traffic and student behavior. So with traffic, they were concerned about Locust Street being plugged at the start and end of school. There was a complaint about crossing guards favoring students over traffic flow, and that can kind of slow things down a little bit. And then there was a concern about lack of parking and some of the community members parking on Locust Street. And then for the student parent behavior, there were complaints about some rude interactions, trash on adjacent properties, and occasional trespassing. Sometimes a soccer ball or a football or a frisbee will go over one of our fences. And then I guess after school, the students are walking home and they might go on to some of those neighbors' yards to get their ball. So that was another concern that was raised at the Planning Commission meeting. So I say that in context of our town hall, which is this Saturday at 9 a.m. It's going to be in person. Basically, what I want to talk about our town hall is 4 things: SABA past and present, worst case scenario, best case scenario, and then our next steps. So past and present, I kind of want to give them context of what our conditional use permit is, why that's expiring, how that came to be, and how we could potentially have the opportunity to buy our building. The worst case scenario is that the city council may deny our zoning amendment. And if that happens, then we would need to move to another location at the end of next school year. And that would be for the 23-24 school year. May even have to start at a PBUSD school site. Best
So
case,
that PVUSD site would be likely if you had to ask for facilities, correct?
that is correct.
So it'd be nice to get them involved in this, getting this stuff pushed.
Yes, I was just,
Really, really good point, Mary.
Dan and I were just talking today about going out and speaking with, writing a letter to Dr. Rodriguez about this.
Mhm.
Superintendent. Best case scenario, city council approves our amendment and we can proceed with bond issue, purchase our building, and maybe eventually build the gymnasium on Locust across the street. So there's so many great things that can happen, but I think it's really important that our community knows they can show up to that June 28th meeting, and we can make a difference. I feel a little bit like the planning commission didn't really have all of the facts at their disposal when they made their vote on April 4th. So what we talked about at school site council was we could have basically stationery set up so that our community could write letters then and there to their council members. And then we came up with, we're gonna have teal t-shirts that say SABA Cares on them. And then one group is gonna be the community cleanup group. So probably quarterly, they'll go out and pick up trash in the area around SABA. And so we'll start that up in the next week or two here. It'll be kind of our inaugural sign up for this coming Saturday, and then we'll work from there. And then another group is going to go out and knock on doors and talk to the neighbors to find out, kind of listen to them, hear what their frustrations are, and then see what we can do to show them what we're going to do to alleviate those frustrations, and also talk about the benefits that having SABA in the community might bring. And then finally, encourage the community members to speak at the June 28th City Council meeting. So we'll have a slide up here that looks like this. This is the city of Watsonville, and we've got 7 districts in our city. And then there's a rep from each of those districts. And so the families will be able to determine who is their city council person. And then they can contact them to talk about what SABA means to them. And so that is our plan for this coming Saturday. Any questions about the town hall?
I think you're thinking of everything, Josh. So that's good.
Okay, so yeah, thank you all. And that concludes my head of school report.
Phew. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Thank you,
Really
Josh.
good.
Let's move on to the consent agenda. Is there any questions, or are there any items on the consent agenda that somebody wishes to pull for further discussion?
The only thing is I cannot approve the minutes because I wasn't here. So that would be my only
Me too.
remark. Oh, you weren't there either.
Wasn't there last time.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3.
We lost, oh wait, there's Larry. So that's 3. So I guess we'll have to leave that for next time. So which item is that you're not able to vote on? The
Minutes. The minutes.
The minutes, yeah.
So Josh, I think we're gonna have to save the minutes for the next meeting.
We had that happen in February as well.
Yeah. So for the remaining items on the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda without the minutes from that meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay. So finding out how people vote. Mary, how do you vote?
Aye.
Gershom,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Javier,
Aye.
and Michael votes aye as well. Okay. Now, let's see. Are we down to action items now?
Mhm.
All right. So first action item is the 22-23 designation of CIF representatives to the league.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So CIF representatives, SEBA needs to list people who are going to be a part of the representatives for the CIF league. And this body makes decisions about the future of the league, how schedules will work out, transportation rules, etc. And so I'm asking the board to approve myself, Daniel Ornelas, and Rachel Pedley as representatives for the 2022-23 school year.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you, Javier. And how do you vote? Mary,
Aye.
Gershom,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Javier,
Aye.
and Michael votes aye as well. Moving right along to Form 990. Oh, before we get to Form 990, Josh, has everybody turned in their Form 700?
You
Close.
got mine, right?
I do have yours, Mary. People
Really,
covering,
by now, every board member has gotten their Form 700 in, right?
Absolutely.
No,
Almost.
Larry,
I'll
did
drop
I
mine
see
off
you raising
tomorrow.
your hand there? Gershom, will you guys get those in tomorrow, please?
I can
I
try.
will
I'm
be
having,
in school tomorrow, so yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
having tech issues. I'm not sure. I may have to do it by snail mail.
Well, Spain's pretty connected. You probably could go to the local biblioteca and borrow their
That's-
scanning machine.
That's kind of my plan for tomorrow. So we'll see if it works out or not.
Good luck. Okay, on to Form 990.
thank you, Michael. So every year, SEBA Public Schools needs to file a tax return. It is called a Form 990. And so I'm asking the board to approve this tax return that runs from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And this is just a annual process, and it just goes over our revenues. And it has that we're filing as a nonprofit, and it just goes through all of our expenses like a typical tax return does.
I'll make a move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, how do people vote? Mary,
Aye.
Gershom,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Javier,
Aye.
and Michael votes aye as well. And that brings us to closing items. And I'd like to say I was going to give Larry the merit for not having his Form 700 in, but the fact that he's now up at 3 a.m. in the morning to be with us
Yes.
sort of evens thing out. Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you.
Larry, where are you?
I'm in Spain.
I just got back
Aye.
from Spain.
Where were you?
I was in Barcelona, Cartagena, Sevilla, and Madrid.
Wow.
So we're in a small agricultural village about an hour and 35 minutes from Barcelona, southern tip of Catalonia.
Okay. Okay. How long you there for?
Well, I'm going to be here until mid-June, and then next fall, my wife just retired in January, so I'm setting things up. She's coming over. We're both going to come back over in September and stay for the year.
I am so jealous, just so you know.
I'd love to be in Spain too.
Come visit. We have a big house.
Okay.
All
I'll
right.
take you up on that.
Cool.
Okay, any items for the next board meeting that people would like to raise?
The only things that I could think of that we'll be bringing are LCAP and our budget for next year.
It is June, so just a
We'll have
reminder.
to have two
Yes.
meetings. Yeah.
First and 15th.
I can tell you one month. It's June.
Mercy.
Actually,
Yes.
it's 14.
Yes, 7th and 14th.
June 7th and June 14th.
Those are both Tuesdays at 5:30.
Yes.
All righty.
They're Tuesdays. I'm sorry, what days were they again? Because I have my meeting.
The 7th and 14th.
Oh, I have my board meeting on the 14th for our budget.
We can move it to the 21st.
That would work for me.
Keep in mind summertime, so I don't know, vacation plans and whatnot. But it's, yeah, fine to move it to the 21st.
Does it work for everybody else?
Let me check my calendar.
I think we should be fine.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Oh, on the 21st, I have another board meeting.
Oh, you know what? And I'm sorry. Okay. We actually, I think at an earlier time, said we would have a earlier June meeting from 3 to 4 on the 7th. We can have it back at 5:30 if that works for everybody.
And June 7th would be 3 to 4.
And that works way better for me.
How do you feel about that?
Let me look really quick.
How about meeting for the second meeting on the 13th?
Yep, I can do the 13th.
Okay. And then what time on the 13th?
Let's see.
I could do the 3rd or 3 o'clock if that works better for Larry.
Yeah, no, it definitely works better for me than, that
My-
would make it starting at midnight instead of.
I have a
2:30.
standing meeting, maybe 4 instead of 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Larry.
No, it's okay. 1 o'clock isn't too bad.
Hey, I want to say thank you. This saved probably 15 emails back and forth. So appreciate that we can work it out right now.
All right, anything else for the good of the cause? Then I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you,
There you
everybody.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to